Asia's travel future has just gotten 10 times darker. And the reason why it's gotten 10 times darker is because of this new COVID variant called Omicron. Southeast Asian countries have been preparing for the winter season, not just for a month, not just 2 months, but for a prolonged time. And now these countries are talking about, in fact, some have already shut their borders, which is crazy considering all the preparation that was necessary to get to this point of opening the country. And what I wanted to talk about in this video is some countries that are still open and also some countries that have changed their stance and are now closing their borders again. If you have been following this whole thing, which is really crazy, really crazy, Omicron is a newly identified COVID variant that was originally discovered in South Africa. And as you can guess, it's a viral virus. So it spreads pretty quickly, and it's since been noticed in about 16 countries, not only in Africa, but also in Europe, in America, and also in Asia, meaning this thing is pretty much out of control at this point. And I think countries that believe that they can contain the virus by shutting its borders, they are probably going to have a much tougher time restarting their economies if and when they decide to do so. Having a look at one of the statements made by Moderna, okay? Moderna is a vaccine producer and it's one of the largest. And Moderna says that the current COVID vaccines that are on the market, meaning the ones that are still being used by Southeast Asian countries that haven't gotten to the threshold yet, 70-80% mark, they haven't gotten to that threshold yet. Now, Moderna is saying that the current COVID vaccines are not very effective against this new variant. And I think that is really bad news for Southeast Asian countries because they have been injecting the initial COVID vaccines that worked very well for the original variants. However, now they keep injecting, right? They keep using vaccines that are not going to be as effective as a vaccine specifically created for this new variant. And I think this is a bummer. And the WHO also says, right? WHO says that Biden urges vaccination. But the problem is we don't have an effective vaccine for this new variant yet. What are countries going to do? How are they going to move ahead with this? I'm not sure. But now taking a look at Southeast Asia, what we can see in Thailand, because Thailand is a very unique player. Thailand has said many times that we're going to open this bad boy up. They opened up their economy for the most part. You know, a lot of places are still not open, you know, or operating at very limited capacity. However, Thailand said, we're going to open up and we're going to stay this way. We've done enough harm to our economies and our people need to work, they need to make money, and they need to live their lives. I think that's positive. And Thailand also said that it doesn't matter what the new variant is, we're not going to close our borders. And they also said that about this new variant that just popped up. Thailand, which is still, you know, working on attracting more tourists back to the country. So far, Thailand has only attracted 200,000 tourists over the past 11 months and expected to only attract 300 to 400,000 tourists by year end. The thing here is that Thailand, as much as other Southeast Asian countries, like most of the tourists, you know, Europeans, Americans, Australians that are coming to the region, they usually come to the region during winter. You know, you want to get out of the bad weather, you want to have a little bit of fun in the sun. And Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, all these countries are perfect for a winter gateway. That is undeniable. However, the 400,000 tourists is not a lot, considering how many tourists Thailand received in 2019. You know how many? 41 million. And now we're talking 400,000 tourists a year. The problem with these numbers is that there just isn't enough volume there for Thai companies, for Thai businesses, for the average spa owner, for the average food court owner, the average whatever owner to make a living, because there's just a lack of tourists. Who is going to go there? Who is going to spend the money? Who comes? You know, not a lot of people can because the requirements are so bad, they're so strict, And a lot of people don't want to put up with this. A lot of people are going to say, you know what? Why would I go to Thailand if I can go to Mexico and not have to be vaccinated, not have to get a PCR test done, nothing required? You know, it doesn't just need to be Mexico. It could be the Dominican Republic, could be Costa Rica, Colombia, any of the really open countries that offer good weather, cheap cost of living, maybe not as cheap as Thailand, but still a lot better than back home, right? Still a much better quality of life than back home. So I know that Thailand has really relaxed its entry requirements in recent days. So if you go to Thailand right now, if you're vaccinated, no quarantine required. You do need to get tested on arrival. The unvaccinated are also welcome in Thailand, which I find really cool. You know, it's the only country in the region that is allowing unvaccinated travelers. There's a contingency. You need to be okay with being quarantined, which not a lot of people are okay with. Got to say that too. Vietnam, okay, just opened up. Again, very limited capacity, limited areas, and they just started a direct flight to the United States. However, now the country is working very closely with the World Health Organization to determine how contagious, how deadly the new variant is. And you can guess what's going to happen. Should it turn out that the new variant is very contagious and very deadly and very uncontrollable, whatever, then you can guess what's going to happen in Vietnam. The country is going to shut down again, and it's going to really harm the tourism sector, not only in Vietnam, but in Southeast Asia, because people are coming to Southeast Asia not just to spend time in Thailand. They want to move around. They want to have a good life. You know, they want to have intercontinental travel freedom, even if it's restricted, right? Restricted intercontinental travel freedom is not going to happen, in my opinion. And Cambodia also put a block on 10 African countries, okay? If you come from any of these 10 African countries, you're not allowed into Cambodia at the moment, which is definitely not too cool, I guess. And Singapore has opened up vaccinated travel lanes, okay? If you're traveling from any of the countries that Singapore considers low risk, you can come into the country fully vaccinated, no quarantine required, but further testing required upon arrival. This current offer still stands, okay? But Singapore had plans to expand its reopening, okay? But with this new COVID variant, Omicron, they are now saying, you know what? We're gonna push back a bit because we want to make sure that this is not as bad as they make it sound like, okay? Now, Singapore is definitely open. Quarantine-free travel is possible. You can go to Singapore, and if you want to spend time in Southeast Asia, and of course, got to make sure you're okay with all these requirements. If you're flying from Thailand to Singapore, Singapore to Thailand, you know, you need to do a lot of testing, right? You need to do a lot. You need to have the electronic COVID pass that Singapore has. I don't know exactly how it works, but I heard that you need to have this pass ready before you get on the plane. Should you not have it ready before you get on the plane, you're probably gonna be rejected. So this pass is mandatory, and Singapore only allows very few vaccines. You know, for instance, Johnson & Johnson is not approved in Singapore. The country that has really gotten the worst out of the pandemic, or one of the countries that have gotten the worst out of the pandemic. You can guess what country we're talking about. The Philippines. The Philippines was just about to open up. You know, after having shut its borders for such a long time, the Philippines is now opening up, or was going to open up, but the new variant popped up, and now they said, you know what? We're gonna hold all inbound tourism travelers, okay? To protect public safety. You cannot come to the Philippines this winter because of this new variant, and you can guess the tourism ministry has changed its stance once again, which is really a bummer because I really feel for all the people that have made already bookings. You know, you've booked your flight, you've done the vaccine stuff, you know, the testing possibly. You know, it's very likely that you were about to come to the Philippines in the next days, but given the current circumstances, you're no longer eligible to come. And this really hurts a lot of people, and not only does it hurt inbound travelers. Think about all the businesses that were about to open in the Philippines, but they're not going to open now because the government is again in between the reopening and people coming in. So these companies, these businesses, they've been preparing for weeks and some even for months. They have stock, they have stocked up products, and they're just waiting to sell these products, and it is just crazy how this is happening. You can really decide on your own whether this is justifiable or not, but I know people that have been commenting on my channel and that have been sending me emails, have contacted me personally, and they told me, I can't wait for the Philippines to open back up because I'm been waiting for such a long time to get back with my girlfriend, with my fiance, with my wife, it doesn't matter. But now all these people are again locked out with no set date when they're going to be able to come to the country. It is just mind-boggling what is going on. And I feel sorry for all you guys and all the YouTubers that are doing these updates, like they are preparing that the Philippines is making such good progress, and they have been improving vaccination rate wise, and they've really set a good plan. But how good is a plan if all of a sudden you're going to shut your borders again, and all the people that have made their travel plans, they can't come anymore? What's also noticeable about the Philippines is that Filipinos, there's a ton of stories of Filipinos being unable to leave the country because of whatever reason. They're fully vaccinated, they have the tests, they have proof of accommodation. They're unable to leave the Philippines because they're being blocked by customs, by Philippines immigration. And there have been a ton of stories of them. And the question is, what do you do? It is a very difficult time for anybody to decide. But what I would recommend, if you're not in a relationship with an Asian, if you don't have kids in Asia, if you don't have any serious ties to Asia, why go there right now? It is such a time of uncertainty, especially in Southeast Asia. Where governments are changing their minds from one day to another, and there's no predictability, there's no certainty, there's nothing but chaos. It's a chaotic place that I don't want to be in. I don't even want to think about going there, because if I'm going to spend all this money, all this time preparing, and then all of a sudden they're going to say, hey, you know what, this new variant popped up, or we have some problems here, you can't come in here. We don't care about all the time, the effort, the money that you spend, how much you did to prepare yourself. It is not good enough. So what I'd recommend you do instead is just go to open places, and given the current season that we're right now in winter, and you need to go to a place that's warm if that's important to you, and you're just going to have very limited options. The Caribbean, Central America, Mexico, South America. This is your best bet, okay? And I'm not saying this because I'm anti-Southeast Asia. No, I was pro-Southeast Asia for such a long time. But from a personal perspective and from a logic perspective, it doesn't make sense to even try to get this right, because this is out of your control. You can get everything right and still not be accepted. It is just the truth of the current situation. Where are you going to spend this winter? What do you think about the current COVID situation in Southeast Asia? And when do you think things could return to normal? Let us know by leaving a comment below. Before I let you go, I got 3 recommendations for you. Recommendation 1, I wrote a completely free ebook on how you can retain a life of freedom during challenging times. If you want to grab a copy of this ebook, click on the link below. Recommendation 2, I shot a video on countries with easy residence permits. Check out this video now, click right here. And recommendation 3, which is to watch another video of mine, the best countries for single guys. Click right here. Thank you for watching.